If you look at wealth creation over centuries, there's this very consistent pattern that the people who create wealth when it feels scary, those are the people that have fantastic wealth outcomes because everyone else just has their head under the pillow.
Welcome to the MoneyFitMD show. I'm Dr. Latifat, the founder of MoneyFitMD.
We want to change the narrative
where women physicians use.
My job is to let you know that's going to. I have to surround myself with people that are doing crazy.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad and excited that you guys get to join us today for a conversation between me and Dr. Elaine. If you haven't met me yet, I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm glad we found each other. And if you haven't met Elaine yet, this is what I'm going to tell you. This time together, it's going to be a casual conversation, but it's also going to be value-packed because that's kind of what we do. We love to give value. We know that your time is really important. So we're not going to be talking for too long, but I'm excited that you get to hang out with me and Elaine. So officially, welcome, Elaine, to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I know it's going to be super fun. You and I have had such a great friendship and relationship all these years. As you were talking about that, I was thinking about the time that we shared a hotel room together at a conference and all the goodness that came from those conversations. And this one promises to be just as amazing.
I love it. So for those that haven't met you, just if you want to spend 1 or 2 minutes and just give them a good idea of who are you, what do you do, and just a brief intro into your story of how you are who you are today.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm Elaine Stageberg. I am a wife of 14 years. I have 5 children. Everyone always sort of loses their breath when they hear that. I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an almost 1-year-old. I'm a psychiatrist by training. I live in Rochester, Minnesota. I had the really good fortune of doing my training at the Mayo Clinic, and that just really has shaped so many things about who I am. And I am the founder and owner of Black Swan Real Estate. So we are a real estate investment firm. We have about $400 million in assets under management, single-family homes, large multifamily communities. We're principally located here in Rochester, Minnesota, and then we have some assets in broader Minnesota as well. And then a portion of our portfolio is in Tacoma, Washington. And we work with passive investors who invest in the company. We then acquire real estate assets. We manage them with our sister company, Black Swan Living, and return those profits out to our investors. And both my husband, Nick, and I now run the company full-time over the last about 5 years as we've scaled the company.
I love it. So Elaine and I, we've known each other now for, 4 years or something like that through the online space. And we've gotten to, spend time together, but also learn about what each other are doing. And one of the things that I want to share is that I've invested through you guys and also partnered with you guys through some investments that you've done. And it's always just been a delight engaging with you and your team. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is she's going to be one of our speakers next month at Wealthy You Life, which I'm super duper excited about. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the ways that people can invest in themselves, potentially through your company in a little bit as well. But just looking at your journey from physician, mom, human, to being a real estate investor, but not just another real estate investor, but someone that is able to have that level of portfolio under management. I'm curious to hear from you. What are some of the challenges that you found that limit physicians, especially women physicians, from being able to make those leaps in themselves, whatever that may look like?
Yeah, that is such a good question. And it's one that I've lived, my own self, right? And I'll share, particular stories about that. It's something I've seen time and time again as a psychiatrist, right? Not just with real estate, with investing, but with any decision that we want to make as we create our identity and we work toward our goals and we do away with fear and all of those sorts of things. And then through my work in Black Swan Real Estate, I've had hundreds of phone calls with investors. And so I think I understand investor psychology pretty well. Even in my own journey, I felt fear, concern, maybe it wasn't for me, right? All of those same things. My husband and I both came from childhoods where we both had a lot of financial insecurity. And when we first met and we were deciding that we were going to, commit to each other and eventually get married, we talked a lot about what we wanted our own family's finances to look like. And we went to people who were a generation ahead of us and we asked them all sorts of questions, things like, how do you have a good marriage? How do you raise good children? And then the financial piece came up. And we heard time and time again, real estate investing. And so we knew very early on in our marriage that we wanted to do real estate investing. And so I had that piece, right? You can kind of think of that as like, that's when the seed was planted, right? Maybe that's where some people who are listening in, or some people who are at the conference, they might kind of have had that seed planted, that cognitively they know that real estate investing can be a really great way to grow and protect wealth. And maybe they've seen some other people have success. And that's where I was. And I just sort of, almost just had this kind of like unconscious belief, but like, oh, that's for later, right? I couldn't really connect to like, oh, that is possible for me right now. So my husband and I got married. We both owned just very basic starter homes. We moved into his home after we got married. And I wanted to sell my starter home. And he's like, well, I thought we were going to be real estate investors. And I was like, oh, no, that's too risky for right now. Like, we just got married. I'm about to go to medical school. I was working at the time, and I'm about to lose my income so that I can go to medical school. And so even right then, right, I had made the decision that someday I would be a real estate investor, and I had seen the goodness. But even then I thought, oh, well, it's not for me now. This is, for later. And I'm just so I just look back on that time now, I just feel so grateful that I made the tough decision to keep that home and convert that into a rental property, and all of the goodness that came from that, right? The monthly cash flow, the mortgage being paid down by the resident, making those rent payments, by the equity growth that happened over all of those years of ownership. And then that led to, step by step to the portfolio that we have today. We just kept investing and kept really believing that every dollar we could kind of put on that real estate train and buy more and more properties, that would lead to, inevitable financial freedom. And then that, period came along, and then people started coming to us saying, it seems like you've had a lot of financial success with your real estate investments. Can we invest alongside you? And that's how we started working with passive investors. And then, kind of all those steps that led to the company that we have today, where we now have about $100 million that's been invested in the company across about 525 passive investors. And I think, kind of having gone through, that trajectory, right? And all along the way, right, I shared the fear that happened in the beginning, but it keeps showing up, right? It keeps showing up as there's scale, and hearing from investors, fears that they have about scaling, or beliefs about what may or may not feel possible for them. And you just kind of keep working through it, right? You just keep saying, hey, if others are having this success, I believe that this success can be possible for me. I need to figure it out. I need to have the education piece. I need to have the community piece where I can go to trusted people and learn and ask questions and talk through, their successes and their failures. And then ultimately just take the action and do so in a way that feels aligned. And then just keep repeating that process over and over and over. That's what has created Black Swan Real Estate, from one single starter home to a portfolio of $400 million. And that's what I think investors have to go through in their own journey as they're building their portfolios as well.
Thank you for that great history of just the transition, because it's so easy for people to hear the numbers, hear the big numbers, or look at the light and assume that it's too inaccessible for them. And that's how I felt early in my own journey, where it was like, well, that's for other people. Real estate is for other people. Being good with money is for other people. Diversifying is for other people. Having a business, taking a sabbatical. And I think if you're listening right now, it sounds like it starts at the point of thinking it's for other people. There's another step after that eventually leads to the things that you are going to be able to accomplish. So thanks for showing that journey of yours, because it didn't start with a ton of money, didn't start with generational wealth, didn't start with 400 doors. One door was where it started, and reinvesting is how you can now be in a place where you can do this. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our very first property that we purchased intentionally to invest was a home that had been vacant for 9 years. It was a foreclosure, and it had gotten gummed up in the legal process with the foreclosure for 9 years, right? So all the things that you can imagine, right? Just hearing those two pieces of data, a foreclosure, vacant for 9 years. We had to redo the plumbing, the roof, the windows, the kitchen, the bathroom, all of the flooring, paint every single wall. I mean, we were basically buying like the lot and I don't know, the foundation. Like, when I say we needed to replace everything, we needed to replace everything. We paid $35,000 for that home. Incredibly, incredibly, incredibly modest. But we knew that, yes, it was about that first property, but it was really about getting that first at bat, right? We got the first at bat with my starter home that we converted into a rental, but I kind of think like that was T-ball, right? Like I had already owned the home, I had lived in it, all of those sorts of things. The first home that we intentionally purchased for investment, again, it was about the financial success of that one, but it was really about, creating the identity of being real estate investors, of getting some of that muscle memory of like, we can do this, we can figure out hard things. The next one will be easier and easier and easier and easier. And I think every investor has to go through that, right? The first one is always the scariest, whether it's the first time you see a patient or the first time you do an investment. You have a belief that you can do it because other people have done it. You surround yourself with other people who have had those successes. And then you know that when you get over that first time, then it gets easier from there. And then you're compounding not just your financial gains, but your knowledge gains as well.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the importance of talking to people that have gone ahead of you in different directions, in different areas of your life. You talked about the importance of community. You talked about the importance of taking action. And as someone that is, known you for a couple of years, and I know you mentioned earlier that we shared a room together at a conference, I think it was 2 years ago. I'm just curious to have you share with our audience, like, what has been your experience or the impact of in-person meetings in your own journey as you've grown over the last couple of years?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there is truly no substitute, right? And don't get me wrong, I love Zoom. I am so grateful for, what we're all able to accomplish because of technology, because of how much technology sped up, as a result of COVID, email, text, social media, right? All of those things. So many of the wonderful things I have in my life today are a result of those things, right? Women physicians that I've met in Facebook groups that have gone on to become, dear beloved friends, information that I've learned that's available to me because of the internet and podcasts and all of those things. But there is just really something truly about being physically together, right? I'm a psychiatrist, right? I understand human behavior deeply. And we know that 80% of communication is not the words that come out of our mouth, right? It's body language, it's subtle facial expressions, it's changes in the way we move our eyes, it's pheromones, right? You name it. The way all of that communication is just amplified exponentially when we can get in the same room, and we can get in not just the same room, but the same room of high quality, high performers who have emotional vulnerability and are trustworthy. Right? That's really the combination. High performers, high quality people with emotional vulnerability who are trustworthy, because that's where we really figure out we are not alone. We all have very similar goals, right? We want health for ourselves. We want fun experiences. We want to create memories. We want goodness for the loved ones around us. We want good relationships, right? We have big goals, and we want financial security and financial freedom. I really think of those two things as literally two sides of the same coin. Financial security and financial freedom are really the same thing. We just kind of use the words differently based on the emotional residue that we're bringing to, whatever conversation we're having. And then in those settings, we can accelerate our learning and do so in a way where right there in the moment, we can ask questions. We can hear people's stories of success. We can hear people's stories of struggles, their sticking points, how they worked through that. And we leave so much more empowered, not just with knowledge and not even with like courage or empowerment, but with the belief that we too have that identity, right? I really like to say that humans rarely make decisions based on information. We sometimes make decisions based on emotion. We almost always make our decisions based on identity. And a big part of being physically with other people in an intense setting like a conference, an event, a mastermind is so that we can see ourselves as that identity, and we can say, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. And then conversely, like be that light back, right? Like maybe someone is going to a conference because they're really looking for the next step in their finances, and they go there and they find that, but maybe they've really figured out like the physical health piece, right? And they're an example for others. And when there's that mutual exchange, the relationships deepen, the identity expands, and there's just this exponential level of growth that's unavailable in almost every other form of communication.
I mean, that was so beautifully said. And I have to say that for me, as someone that never attended many of these events, for many years as an attendant, the only events I attended were like GI or medicine focused. That's it. And honestly, many of them were like boring and stale, to be honest with you. Everyone was like trying to pretend like they had their each together. And then I started going to other events like business related, financial related, and I realized that it literally is a game changer. And for me, that awareness actually led to sadness, because most women, and many women, especially, minorities, you're a mom, you're a breadwinner, there are so many other things that may feel like baggage that limits them from being able to find it easier to just like hop and leave. And I'm curious to hear words for those people that are like, this sounds great, but, and all of that.
I was right there too, right? All of these things, like you have lived through it, I have lived through it, so many of us have. I remember the first time I was invited to a conference, kind of exactly like you described, right? Like outside of, traditional CME, right? Like for me, it was the APA. And it was a person who said, like, you really got to be here. Like, this is life-changing. I've grown so much from this. And I was like, well, what about the kids, right? I had 2 young children at the time. My husband and I had never left our children alone overnight before. Of course, we'd had I had overnights at the hospital and those sorts of things. But we wanted to attend that conference together. And, I just said, like, it is possible. Like, it is, people have done this before, right? How can I make this work? Who are the people that I trust? How can I patch together? It's just a couple of nights. I can return the favor to them in the future, right? They're bringing their kids over too. So it's like these beautiful little play dates. And it was not easy. It was not easy. Today, we have 5 children, and we do still occasionally, both go to conferences. But one of the things I love about this conference in particular is that it's geared toward women. So if there's a partner at home, that does make it a little bit easier, right, to leave kids behind, those sorts of things. But we're all leaving something behind. Kids, jobs, pets, the house itself, the never-ending to-do list, the never-ending email. And doing so with a belief that whatever sacrifice we put into that is worth the kind of the unknowable growth that will come. And I find that for myself, I think I've actually learned to really appreciate the struggle, for lack of a better word, to get myself to conferences, because it makes me so motivated at the conferences. Like, what I will say in my own head is like, self, you have left behind 300 emails, 5 children, a husband, a house, all the things. You need to come here and you need to find the value and make it worth it, right? Justify being away from your children, justify being away from the office, like justify the sacrifice that it took to get here. And so I've really learned to appreciate the effort that it takes to get myself to these sorts of things, because it tunes my mind to like, hey, I better go find the value. It is within my control to find the thing here that I'm going to implement immediately that delivers, 100, 1,000, 10,000x the ROI.
I love that. It's exactly what I do. When I go to events, I'm acknowledge the cost of the event, right? The financial cost of the event, the time away, especially if you were on call the weekend before. Like, this is your non-call weekend, right? And I think about the value as the things you talked about, the personal growth, the connection, the mindset, the rest. Let's not forget the rest part of the things, right? Rest and ease and ROI as well. My first book would not have happened if I did not literally go to an event that I decided 4 days before. 4 days before the event. 4 days. It's crazy, right? And so, but I understand the cost, and I think that's why it's so important that there are women having this conversation, because your mom, I got 3 kids. That's a lot. You got 5. So you're living like more behind. And I'm really, really excited that people are going to get to meet you, or they're going to get to listen to the speakers, connect with all the women in the room. I do want to change the shift a little bit you're talking about something that I've heard you say about 2025. And this is one of my favorite things. I love that our people are savvy and learning how to be savvy. I love that women physicians are learning how to silence the noise. I love that we're learning to stay when everybody else is running away, because that means there's opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It says something about been one of the biggest years of acquisition for your team. Talk a little bit about that. What opportunities? Because everyone talks about the challenges of 2025. Everybody talks about the difficulties, but people are not talking about the opportunities. So talk to us a little bit about the opportunities that you're seeing that women physicians can definitely benefit from in 2025 and beyond.
So much truth there, right? And that's not my lesson, right? That's Warren Buffett says, like, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful, right? Be greedy when others are fearful. Paul Tudor Jones says that the optimal buying time is the point of peak pessimism. The optimal buying time is the point of peak pessimism. Like, we know that, right? We know that intuitively. We know that if a local clothing store has a going out of business sale, like, we should probably go buy and get some clothes, right? We're going to get some really good deals. The same thing is true in the broader economy. The same thing is true in investing. So real estate had a period where things were just like really easy. From after the post-2008 crash, I would estimate maybe 2010, 2011, really until about 2022, right? Interest rates were relatively low. They did have some ups and downs, but they stayed relatively low. Inventory was plentiful. Like, things were just, pretty easy. Through COVID, things were exceptionally easy because there was so much capital that flooded the market through stimulus, right? That the government was pumping out to get the country through the pandemic. And then really things shifted hard in early 2022 when interest rates started going up. The Federal Reserve, their mandate is to keep maximum employment while minimizing inflation. And inflation went to, historic highs, 8, 9, 10%. And so they needed to raise interest rates. And they rose them faster and at a higher rate than they ever have before in the history of the Federal Reserve. And that led to a feeling of investor sentiment going down. It led to a feeling where people who had put deals together in the years prior to that with what is called variable rate debt, that meant that as interest rates went up, their mortgages went up, so their expenses went up. So it was harder to profit from those deals and to send out distributions to investors. So there was some nervousness there, right? This whole kind of constellation of things has come together since about mid-2022 that has led to a lot of people feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not so sure about real estate. What that means is there's so few buyers in the market right now. Well, people still need to sell, right? People, their debt terms out, or they're at an age where they want to sell their investment real estate or their private equity firm, and it's within their mandate that they sell, right? There's all sorts of reasons. And so they're extraordinarily excited to negotiate with the very few buyers who are left in the market. What that means is, say, in 2020, 2021, right, we are a firm that's growing, right? So we're buyers, and we would call sellers, and we would be lucky if they would take our phone call. We would call brokers and they would say, like, you have 2 minutes, right? Because they had hundreds of people calling them, trying to buy the apartment buildings, all the things. Today, the exact opposite is true. Our emails are constantly flooded with, hey, is there anything I can do to help you with your offer? Is there any other information you have? Can I take you out to lunch? And we'll say, we're not, maybe super interested in this one. And the sellers and the brokers will say, just send me over whatever offer you can put together. It is truly a buyer's market right now for real estate. So we are going to have a record acquisition year in the company because we've earned our investors' trust, because we've always had fixed rate debt in our portfolio. So we've been able to continue our distributions. We've never had a capital call. We've never lost investor capital. All of these things have happened that has led to our investors trusting us a great deal, which means we can raise the capital that we need to then go out into the market and acquire these apartment buildings at a significant discount with, very favorable terms. And things are really good right now. And that's the cycle, right? When others are fearful, be greedy. When there's pessimism in the market, be a buyer, because that's where you lock in the real value, and then you benefit from the returns on that investment while everyone else is just, hiding under the covers, right? While everyone else is just kind of stuck if you look at wealth creation over centuries, there's this very consistent pattern that the people who create wealth when it feels scary, those are the people that have fantastic wealth outcomes because everyone else just has their head under the pillow.
I love it. I love it. And when the pandemic started, so I don't know if I've shared the story with you, you may have heard it, but one of the reasons why I really went full on to MoneyFitMD was I was dabbling at first, like, I don't know if I want to do this. I got not enough problems. Business ain't one. But then what I noticed during the pandemic, very, very early in the pandemic, was that the conversations that was happening in physician spaces when it came to money and wealth was different than what people were talking about that were more savvy investors. They were talking about now is a great opportunity, and physicians at the hospitals were like, well, I'll just wait for the market to get better. I'll wait for, things are overpriced right now. And I'm like, very, very, very different conversation.
Yes.
So that's literally when I ringing the bell and going, guys, there is never going to be a perfect time. Invest. So I love that it's not just like the words of Warren Buffett. It's not just the quotes that we know about. It's like real life experience of 2025 year opportunities. Don't lose. It's time to take advantage of it. But it only is going to reward those that stay out when everybody else is hiding.
Mm-hmm.
So my call to into this is don't hide. Now is the time for good hunters to position themselves. But I'm also curious to hear, so the deals that you guys have right now, I know there's a Secure Freedom Fund that is going to be opening up. Can you tell us a little bit about what the fund is, how people can potentially be a part of it? And I know we sometimes get extra perks with MoneyFitMD community. I don't know if you brought any goodies for us today.
So good. So Secure Freedom Fund is the fund that we have open right now. We will open it for investments on Thursday, August 21st at 7 p.m. Central. We'll have our live webinar launch, and someone can sign up for that at securefreedomfund.com. Everything is right there on the website, the slide presentation, the paperwork, the link to sign up for the webinar. After we do the webinar, we'll put the recording there if someone's catching this recording after that. And really, the Secure Freedom Fund came from listening to investors over the last several years. I have always done all of our investor relations for Black Swan Real Estate. I talk to investors every single day, and just hearing their psychology over the last several years and their concerns and their fears and their worries, and what about interest rates and what about capital calls, right? And all of these concerns that they have in the market. And so we really created Secure Freedom Fund to meet that need. We have a low minimum, just $25,000, right? I shared my very first investment was $35,000, right? So I get it that having that lower minimum can be the difference of like, okay, I'm ready to, get my first at bat, or even to scale the portfolio. $25,000 minimum, increments of $1,000 after that. It pays a 10% fixed rate of return. So everyone else out there is worried about, I'm not sure how my investments are going to perform and those sorts of things. This vehicle has structure, clarity, right? You can mathematically predict out a 10% rate of return, very easy to understand. It has the option for investors to choose either monthly distributions if they're looking for cash flow and right away passive income that would start on the first of the month after the investment. Or if an investor is looking for a higher overall rate of growth, they can allow their distributions to compound monthly. And there's a compounding table that's right there at securefreedomfund.com, right? Warren Buffett says compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. And if you compound, it drastically increases the overall rate of return. After just 12 months, it's at 10.47%. After 24 months, 11.57%. And then it just really picks up pace. And investors can choose, they could have one bucket of money in cash flow, one bucket of money in the compounding option. They can switch between the two of them. They just email us and let us know they want to switch. Investors choose when they would like to exit the fund. That's called a redemption. If someone redeems within the first year, you do surrender any of the growth, kind of similar to like cashing out a CD at a bank early. But after that first year, it's just business as usual. You email us in, let us know you'd like to redeem, and we process those on a first come, first serve, best effort basis. So really have tried to create the Secure Freedom Fund. I call it like a choose your own adventure, so that investors can really customize it to their own financial goals. If they want cash flow, if they want compounding, if they want to invest a little, invest a lot, you can invest in your personal name, with a spouse, with an LLC, with a trust, with retirement dollars. the fund directly owns real estate assets. So we use those dollars to acquire real estate communities. And that means that, number one, there's a lot of safety and security there because the fund owns hard assets, sticks and bricks and dirt and all of those things. And then it's also very tax advantageous. So all of the tax benefits of direct real estate ownership pass through to investors. We do cost seg studies. 100% bonus depreciation was reinstated earlier this year. So there's tons of tax efficiency as compared to, other sorts of investments, say like a CD or a bond. So lots of reasons if someone's thinking about putting some of their dollars in a real estate investment, doing so with someone who has a great track record, who's never had a capital call, who's making distributions out, large portfolio. We manage everything that we own. I think that's really important because I really like to think of it as like the buck stops with us, right? Like we are responsible for creating the outcomes that we need for our investors. And then all of that opportunity to personalize the investment to the way someone would like to. And we're not open very often because we only open when we get our next thing under contract. And we always first open to our wait list. And usually we fill pretty quickly because we'll usually raise maybe $4 to $5 million to acquire maybe a $20 million apartment community. Right now we're under contract for Villages at Essex Park. It's $40.4 million acquisition price. It has a HUD loan assumption at 2.1 fixed for the next 37 years. Like literally, like when I say that, I like almost faint. Like that is just like unheard of lending terms. And so it's an $18 million raise. We've already opened to our wait list. We've raised about $14 million from our wait list. So when we do our live webinar launch on Thursday, August 21st at 7 p.m., we'll have a little space if people would like to come into the fund. Now's the opportunity.
So if someone is listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm ready to invest, and I know that they're not officially on your wait list, but can we get in?
So you can go to securefreedomfund.com and you can register for the webinar and then email me, email Latifat, like I can get you in, kind of the back door, so to speak, and get you in, early access. I think it's going to move pretty quickly. I would anticipate once we launch that webinar, we'll probably fill through the weekend. If someone's listening to this and you take a look at the website, securefreedomfund.com, everything's all there. The paperwork is there. The slide presentation is there. The last time we opened was just in May. So we have the webinar that we did there. That's the YouTube video is linked right there. So you could watch that. The only difference for Thursday's webinar is we'll share the details about Villages at Essex Park. But if after you take a look at all of that, you're ready to make a move, we can get you in. Just email me, Elaine at blackswanteam.com, email Latifat. We'll get you in before we open to the webinar. Because I do think we'll fill quickly. I would anticipate we'll probably fill by Friday night or Saturday morning.
I think so too. I think there is definitely people want to invest. People want to invest in people that have know and see that's a human being. You're not like behind like a PE or whatever, like a typical PE firm. They want to invest with people that have track records. Of course, we always say that past returns does not predict the future. But one other thing that I remind people of is you invest in also in people, the character of the people, right? What do they do when things go wrong? That's probably more important than even the deal, right? And I love that you've been coming to visit our community multiple times over the last couple of years. You're one of our sponsors. Black Swan is for our in-person event, which I'm really excited about. And you have an event here in September that I'm going to be speaking at. So
I know. How fun is that?
And I'm just excited that people get to know you. People get to partner with you for their own benefit. But, if anyone is thinking about coming to the in-person event, we absolutely would love to have you, would love to help you to learn how to take action easily, faster, right? Up-level that identity shift that you need in order to be able to become the person. And I want to make sure I'm very, very clear that anybody that will bring in as a guest, whether it's on the podcast or in the money school or in the lounge, like we're streaming in right now, hopefully, one of the things to keep in mind is they did not become this person overnight.
Mm-hmm.
The result of consistent action, consistent improvement, decision to become a different, not a better version of yourself, because you're never whatever anyway, So like a different version of yourself. And I hope that is encouraging to you. And I also love that we're very, very transparent about the how. It's community, it's coaching, it's commitment, growing your own community that's going to support you so that you can go to in-person events, so that you can be part of this coaching calls. It's the decision to listen to podcasts like this. If you're catching the replay, you're one of those people as well. So I just want to make sure that we explain that. So is there an estimated time for the fund reopening after this week?
I don't have an estimated time yet. What happens is we get something under contract, and then when we're preparing to close for that, that's when we open the fund and we raise the dollars that we need for that down payment to acquire that next asset. Generally, it's about every, let's say, like 90 days or so. And if someone takes a look at the materials and they decide, yep, I want to get in the next time this is open, right there at securefreedomfund.com, you can put yourself on the wait list. And so that's what gets you then priority access for the next time that we open. If I had to guess, it might be we'll finish the raise that we're in right now. I think we'll finish that probably within the week. And then if I had to guess, I think we'll probably open one more time by the end of 2025.
And Dr. Paz is one of our new members. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to send me a message, Dr. Paz. We're all for helping women physicians invest more. That's the goal. That's our number one goal. Because budgeting is not what creates freedom. Investing, in my opinion, is what. So our goal is to get women to invest, so that you can have the freedom that you want. So happy to chat offline if you have any questions too. Any last minute words for our audience, Elaine, before we say see you later, see you soon in September?
Yeah, I'm excited to meet as many of you as possible in September. I know it's going to be an amazing event. I'm excited to see what you've put together and what I'm going to learn. And, I'm a big believer that we just need to learn one thing, right? We just need to learn one thing, take it home, implement it, really, bring it into our lives. And you do that a couple of times, really, and life totally changes, right? I've lived through it. You've lived through that. So many have lived through that. We're all on that, continual evolution. So excited about that. I'm just in awe of what you have created over the last many years. All of the data shows, right? We've talked a lot about feelings and growth. All of the data shows that when women have money and they have control of money, everything is better, right? Health outcomes, child outcomes, education outcomes. I'm literally, my whole body is covered in goosebumps right now. It's a very odd feeling, right? Child outcomes, education outcomes, poverty outcomes, you name it, right? Money in the hands of women is good for the entire world. And just so excited to be a small part of that, to be along for the ride. Excited to welcome anyone who would love to invest alongside us. Right at securefreedomfund.com is a link to my calendar. I love to do those calls. That's how I spend most of my time. If you want to ask about the investment, if you just have general investing questions, hey, how'd you do this? Or I'm thinking about that. I'd love to get to know anyone and have a chat with anyone. And there's just so much goodness here. It just makes me smile.
So, Elaine, I want to say thank you for your time. I know you have a lot.
My pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. And thank you for everybody. Sorry about the whole thing not streaming into Facebook. It's always a thing with Facebook and streaming. But I'm glad that some of you guys joined us. But I think we figured streaming eventually. If we did not, we'll make sure the replay is in there so that you guys can catch it. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day. And I look forward to seeing you guys in September at Wealthy You Live, and also partnering with Elaine in the Secure Fund if that's in line with what you want to do in the season of your life. Talk to you guys then.
See you in September.